faith, family, and everything else that matters to you from a godly point of view. Welcome to the Clear Branch Methodist Podcast.
Hey, welcome in. It is the Clear Branch Methodist Podcast. My name is Mark Harvard. I'm one of the associate pastors at Clear Branch Methodist Church, and I'm with us this week, is our own lead pastor, Jeremy Auvel. Thanks for being here, Jeremy.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here. Grateful for the opportunity for us to get another podcast in the books as we talk about all the wild and amazing things going on at Clear Branch. So, yeah, man, glad to be here.
We're coming off of conference this past week. Had a few hundred of our closest friends and family pastors in the building, and had a great time. I mean,
amazing worship, amazing teaching from Dr. Tim Tennant, who is the Methodist Chair of Divinity over at Beeson, and also from our Bishop Carolyn Moore, who was here for the second year, and boy, she knocked it out of the park.
Love her so much.
Both of them are such a wealth of knowledge and an applicable resource for teaching. And so, man, it was so good to have them here and to be here with our brothers and sisters in Christ and to work together and to have ordination, as you were ordained a deacon, which is huge.
Yeah.
Mark's been working on that and made the steps and finished, climbed the ladder, if you will, to get to that point. And he's got
at some point, I'll get my robe out of my car.
Yeah, exactly. I brought mine in. We don't wear robes here at Clear Branch. Maybe you've been to a traditional Methodist church where that's kind of the norm, but at Clear Branch, it's pretty much blue jeans and collared shirts. And so anyway, we're pretty comfortable folks, and our congregation is a very comfortable congregation. They're kind of who they are, and we love that.
Sure.
But, we got to wear robes on Friday night for ordination, and you got to wear yours for the first time, which was pretty awesome.
I had to steam it and everything.
Yeah.
It still had the Amazon
creases
on it. Yeah,
absolutely. So he got his deacon stole, which is awesome. And then hopefully this time next year, we'll be talking about you having
2 years.
2 years.
It's a 2-year break.
2-year break. All right. So 2 years, and he'll be up for ordination as an elder.
Yeah. Hopefully a year from now, I will have just gotten my master's.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So lots of staggered major points coming.
I get that. That's how it worked for me. I was kind of the oddball. I say that. I came in with all the qualifications to be a deacon. And then I graduated, finished up school in January, graduated in May, and then but was ordained an elder the year before that. So, it's all in how you finish the classes. So,
exactly, where they fall and that sort of thing.
That's right.
But happy to be on this track, and God's timing is perfect.
That's right. And if you're hearing us and you're wondering why it is that Mark Harvard sounds like he is a little bit stuffy, he's a little bit stuffy.
I'm a little stuffy. Yeah, I've got some sinus meds, so stay with me a little.
And this has nothing to do with his attitude. It's all about his sinuses, right? So,
maybe a little both.
But okay, could be a little bit. I don't think anybody in the world would ever call Mark Harvard stuffy. But
fair enough.
Yeah, that's
fair
enough. Yeah, that's
so. We're coming out of conference. Dr. Tim Tennant preached this past Sunday, did a fantastic job for Father's Day, and we're starting a new sermon series.
We are
this week.
That's right. If you didn't see Dr. Tennant teach on Sunday, go back and watch that in all of our places where you can grab that, social media and YouTube, etc. But go see it or listen to it in our podcast. Sorry, get it out there in a second. But he did amazing teaching, connecting the resurrection to Pentecost, which was fantastic. The presence and the work of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit in the midst of that, just so good. And this week, we're starting a brand new series. It's called Faith Like a Child. I promise you that does not give me an excuse to be childish, but it does give me an opportunity to challenge each and every one of you, whether you're here with us live or you're catching it, in a recording format, to be childlike in your faithfulness and your humility and the way that you are submitting to God, all of these things. And so I'm super pumped about this series. It's a 4-week series. It's going to be great.
It really is. And it's one of those things that we have to look at where our faith was when it was brand new.
Yeah.
Where was your faith? When you were, when you were just learning all these concepts before the world had a chance to jade you, and before you got, just so busy, sort of, worshiping at the altar of busy, and when it was centralized and prioritized.
Yeah, well, and I think we talked about this yesterday during our staff worship, and we have a worship and teaching time on Wednesday mornings, which is such a blessing, and I kind of previewed some of what I'm talking about this week, but we kind of lose this sense of awe when it comes to what it is that God does, and
wonder. wonder.
And wonder, yeah. And I think that some of that is quite readily available for us if we simply commit to continuing to recognize the might and the power and the awesomeness of God. Those are all very, very real things. And when we do that, we set ourselves up to have a better opportunity to be grateful and thankful, right? And same thing, but you get it, right? For us,
those are synonyms.
They are synonyms. Synonym
Grammar.
toast, like Grammar used to make. Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. You're welcome.
Ted Lasso would be proud.
He would be. And that's important. Make Ted Lasso proud. But all those things are significant for us. Less so Ted Lasso, and more so our childlike faith. And so, what a beautiful challenge for us to really appreciate who it is that God is and what it is that God does. And that's what we're going to be talking about over the course of the next 4 weeks. And how do we live into that, right? And in Matthew, which is where we're starting this week in the 18th chapter, Matthew has this very, very clear indication that one of the ways that we're able to do that is through being humble, right? It's like the primary pivot for Matthew is like this humbleness allows us to really be childlike, kind of cool. What do you think about it?
It really is, because kids, they look at the world in a way that it may not make sense to adults.
Yeah,
but it makes total sense to them. In fact, I'm thinking back to a conference I went to back when I was in youth and children's ministry. This was 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
This was back when millennials were in the children's ministry. It was like how to relate to millennial children.
Yeah.
But they talked about how a kid looks out the window and they see the leaves moving.
Yeah.
And they think, oh, well, the leaves moving is making the wind blow.
Yeah.
Because they don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a difference in perspective. That's for sure.
So,
it is.
But yeah, without having all the extra information, you take things at face value.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that trust that this is how, if mom and dad tell me this is the way it happens, or the pastor tells you the way it happens, this is the way it happens.
Yeah.
And there's that trust there that, God's going to provide. It's a simplicity that should be cherished.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually not only cherished, but longed for. And we need to strive to get back to that. I mean, that's really kind of the push here from Matthew, right? I mean, Christ uses the illustration in Matthew 18 of the little child that comes into the midst of the disciples. And some translations acknowledge like the stature of this child as mean little, some don't. But the very nature of being a child is you are identifiable not only because of your lack of knowledge and experience, but because of your appearance, right? And so this humbleness is about a realization that they are not self-sufficient, that they are not able to have massive amounts of worldly wisdom. They shouldn't. That they're not able to produce material wealth, through their effort. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that children don't have in the sense of their ability to do, right? There is some form of a quote unquote disadvantage is what the world would call it. We call it probably more rightly innocence. Yeah. And so he brings this little child in the midst of them and he says, you need to be more like this one who is fully dependent upon me. The humbleness comes from the recognition that God is the giver of life and every good and perfect gift. And so, I mean, we're going to be talking about that, right? Like this idea of it's not simply about naivete, right? It's about the stature of that child leading to absolute dependence upon those who provide.
Yes.
And the one who ultimately provides is God, right? And so what a beautiful message. So I'm really looking forward to digging into this and working through some of the Greek with you guys because that's who I am but I mean there are some neat things that go on here, right? And it's gonna be fun. I love this series. It's gonna be a great series. So
I'm excited about it as well. As a parent, were you ever able to really have faith issues refreshed by seeing them through the eyes of your children?
Oh, man. Yeah, I think so. Our boys were so different. So James, I think, was always very much on board for what it meant to be in the church and to be a follower of Christ. I think that was so much his personal experience. I'm not going to say he didn't have moments where there was growth and development and kind of these growing edges, but John, on the other hand, had a kind of different experience where mom and dad and older brother were at church and dad was on staff at a church, and it was a lot of time that was dedicated to being there, and that meant that he didn't always get to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So by the time that John got to be maybe 12, he started, maybe even a little before that, he really started to wrestle with what it looked like for him to be a follower of Christ? I mean, did he believe all these things? Were they personal? Was this stuff that he was being, kind of told that he had to do? And so Jenny and I gave him space to kind of work that out for himself.
Yeah.
And I remember he asked one day, he was like, "Do I have to go to church?" We always go to church. And it was a Sunday morning.
Oh, wow.
And he had a long weekend. He was tired. And Jenny said, "You know what? You're old enough to stay at home by yourself. You can stay at home by yourself this morning." Now, that wasn't something we did all the time, but it was something that we allowed him to kind of experiment with.
Sure.
Sometimes absence leads to longing, right?
Yeah.
And so we gave him that opportunity to kind of test the waters and see what worked for him and not feel like it was, something that he had no part in choosing. We wanted him to choose God.
Because if it's an obligation, there's a very different attitude that comes with that.
Yeah, if it's compulsory, that's a radically different thing
Something
than if
I
it's
have
elective.
to do today.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want it to be just another thing on your checklist.
Yeah.
And so we don't want that for any of our people here, right?
No.
The big shift happens when you realize that you benefit, right? That it really is about being a blessing to you to spend time in worship and to spend time in Christian fellowship and to spend time in study and to spend time in prayer. Those things, when they become really recognizable as having tangible impact on your life, you become unable to deny the fact that that's a blessing. You know? And so we wanted John to experience that. And so he had this kind of a moment of like, oh, I just don't know. I mean, do I believe all these things? Am I buying into all this? And then he got this glowing sign that came with letters. You could put different kind of things on the sign.
Yeah, they were huge about 5 years ago.
Yeah. And so he got one of those and he got it for Christmas. It was just kind of a silly little, like side gift. And the first message he puts on it, and I really think the message is still there right now, if you were to go pull that out of his closet, is God is good. Aww. And he had gone through this kind of a process of figuring out whether or not he bought into these things or not. And that was one of those evidences of like, man, he's really getting it.
Yeah.
And now we talk all the time about how big an impact he has on our ministry here, how big an impact he has in terms of invitation to his friends. I mean, there are a lot of students involved in our student ministry that are there because of John's persistent invitation. And then the cool part is that their families.
That's a really nice way to say nagging.
Yeah. Oh, well. But then their families buy in, right? I mean, we've got a lot of families here at this church that are here because of just the invite. And man, how cool is that this young man who was is this all real, is now like, oh, it's real, and I want you to be part of it.
Your kid's out there with the net himself.
Yeah, he is literally fishing for men, right? I mean, like that's the way it works. So
It's so good that he had the maturity to actually work through that at such a young age. I mean, what you were describing, I saw so much in college age kids and in late high school age kids.
Yeah,
is that reassessment of faith? Is it something that I just grew up with, or is this what I really believe?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, it's so interesting that he had that at such a young age. But then again, it shouldn't surprise me just from knowing you and from knowing Jenny. I mean, both of you are very cerebral people that are very in touch with this is how I feel, this is how I work through things and that sort of thing. And some of that gets passed down.
Yeah. I mean, we strive to make sure that they see us not only saying the things that we do, but doing the things that we say.
Yeah.
Right. And that means, we do our Bible study, at the kitchen table or in the living room in the morning. We do our prayer time, in those spaces. We do that, without, trying to hide away and not be distracted. We do it in the midst of life. And as our boys are getting ready for school or they're doing their breakfast or whatever it may be, we sit together a lot of times for those things. But they are seeing this be something that is a major part of our lives. And the hope is that because of that, they understand why it might need to be a major part of their life. Right.
That's fantastic.
And so it's example. We don't get everything right. Please don't hear that. If you know Jenny and I, that we are just as much apt to make mistakes as parents as anybody else is. But this is a big part of this series, right? The idea that we can learn an unbelievable amount of things from our children. They can remind us that our faith should be childlike. And at the same time, our children are going to learn a lot from us too. and we can teach them that their faith needs to be tangible and applied and real, right? And so that's what this is about, man. I love it. So
good stuff. So we've got that going on, and that leads into Vacation Bible School Week.
Absolutely. Next week we start VBS. Yeah,
so much fun.
It is. It's going to be awesome.
It's one of my favorite weeks of the year. We come in, we get to hang out and just be goofy for a whole week.
Which you and I usually don't have a problem with doing that all the time anyway. But now it's recognized as like totally appropriate because it's for the kids, you know? Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. But we Melanie and Addie and the rest of the gang have been working hard to get everything set up and ready to go. And we've got, once again, partnered up with other churches in the area.
Yeah, Springville Methodist and Trustful First Methodist. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And they'll be here with us. And there's space for you and your children to be involved too. And get them signed up. You can do that through any of our social media sites, and you can get in and get your children registered and then bring them in. And even if you don't register in advance and you just decide on Monday night that you want your kid to be here, you bring them on over and we're going to find a place for them to fit.
You won't be the only one.
You will not be the only one. There'll be lots of opportunities, lots of different age ranges. We'll go from the little ones to the big ones, and it'll
3K
to fifth grade.
Fifth grade,
fifth grade, and so lots of opportunity there, and lots of different classes, and it's going to be a blast.
Yep.
It always is. And we're going to camp this week. That's what it's called. Like this camp Live It Out.
Loud.
Yeah.
Live Out
Camp,
Loud.
Live Out Loud. Sorry, Camp Live Out Loud. And that's going to be great. And
which sets me and Melanie up for going to actual camps in Batonga in a few weeks.
That's right. That's going to be fun too.
Yep. That's coming up at the end of the month for me. And then Melanie is a couple of weeks later. And such good stuff. Busy time. People talk about how, in the church in the summer, we don't, we pull back on this and that. We don't do as many small groups during the week and that sort of thing during the summer. But no, that is completely inaccurate.
I don't know where a church that does that exists. I have never been in that church.
Not successfully.
Right. Yeah. For sure. And so I think summertime is one of those places where you do leave some space for community, some fellowship to happen. We're doing that on Wednesday nights. And we used to take Wednesday nights off, which you may argue is like a reduction in what you do, but it never was, because we always had children and student activities and a lot of small groups continued, but we just didn't have the meal. And now we've continued the meal. And last night we had like game night. So we had, a big group here playing cornhole and checkers and all sorts of board games. And, they were knocking a volleyball around. If it were not raining, we would have been outside and had other games to play, but we were together in the fellowship hall or in the great hall in our worship building. And it was amazing. And so, but we would love for you guys to come check out a Wednesday night that's going on. Inexpensive dinner, good food, opportunity to connect with others. If you're looking for a community and a place that you can not only live into God's call in your life independently, but as part of a body of Christ, we would love for you to come check this place out.
So we got that Wednesday night, Sunday, of course, Sunday mornings. We're here with you every Sunday morning, 9:30.
Yeah.
In person, online. Come, and just enjoy. There's no pressure. We're not going to grab your name and address and bombard you with a bunch of stuff and that sort of thing. Just come and be.
We're not going to make you stand up in the service and acknowledge that you're new or wear one of those really like sticky red roses on your collar. Do you remember when churches did that? I totally remember that.
Okay, here we go. Okay. I dated a girl in college and went home with her to Huntsville. And it was not a Methodist church that she went to. Mm-hmm. And I got to the service, and I sat through the service with her, and it was just me and her. Her family didn't go for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe they...
Embarrassed. No, I'm just kidding.
I
don't know. Yeah.
But they stopped the service. It was a small church. The pastor stopped the sermon and said, "Well, I see that Carla has brought a friend."
Ooh.
And made me stand up.
Oh, that's awkward.
And I was like, yeah, I'm not coming back here.
Yeah, we won't do that to you. Mostly because, well, to be honest, in our worship space, when I'm on stage, I can see a lot of the room, but I am not going to see it well enough to call you out and welcome you individually. But I am going to absolutely welcome all those who are new and all those who have been here for 25 years, for 30 years now. So we want to make space for that. But yeah, you're welcome. It's a comfortable place. The seats are great. I know that sounds funny. That was one of the things I heard at conference last week. Oh, these seats are so much better than the pews in my church.
Well, they're not hardwood.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So if you like stadium seating, a comfortable seat, hopefully not so comfortable that you fall asleep, then come and join us at 9:30 on Sunday morning.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jeremy, thanks for being here with us this week.
Yeah, for sure. It's always a blessing. Glad to be here and looking forward to being back again.
All right. It's Clear Branch Methodist Podcast. We'll see you next week.